Hi guys, we're Gem, and we're massively disrupting one of the world's largest industries, banking. See, a long time ago, before banks existed, dealing with money was very simple. I would sell you a shirt, and you would hand me money. But as trade expanded across towns or even oceans, physical security of money became a very serious issue. So banks emerged to solve the security problem, and they provided some very important functions: protection against theft, protection against loss, and they gave us global access to our money anywhere in the world. But the invention of Bitcoin allows for us to have that same level of access to our money and protection against theft and loss, but without the need for a bank. See, Bitcoin is one of the most amazing inventions of our lifetime, because for the very first time, we can move money from point A to point B anywhere in the world instantly with no third party in the middle. And developers around the world are flocking to Bitcoin technology and building apps that empower the individual to take control over their own money. They're rebuilding the entire global economic system from the ground up. In fact, right now, there are over 16,500 Bitcoin apps currently in development on GitHub. And that represents a 12x increase in just the last year. But there's a problem. Bitcoin security is really, really hard. How hard? Roughly 9% of all Bitcoins that have ever existed have been lost or stolen due to poor security. 9%. To put that in perspective, that represents over $600 million in value. So if you're a developer and you want to build a Bitcoin app, not only do you have to build an amazing product, but you also have to be an expert in cryptography, security, network security, and the underlying protocols of Bitcoin. You have to build the entire stack from the ground up. And that's where we come in. Gem gives you everything you need to build secure Bitcoin apps so you can focus on building product and not infrastructure. Let's talk about security for a second. See, Bitcoin is really, really cool because it's programmable money. So what is programmable money? Well, money has rules that are attached to it. So, for instance, if I were to hand this $100 bill to Ken over here, there's a very simple rule that's attached to that transaction. Whoever holds the 100 owns it. Well, in Bitcoin, it actually works very similarly, except instead of me handing Ken the money, what I'm doing is I'm digitally signing my rights to the money away to him. But because Bitcoin is programmable money, that means that we can actually program additional rules into the money itself that must be met before the money can change hands. So instead of requiring a single signature, we can require multiple signatures. You can think of the analogy of a missile silo, where you have one guy with one key and another guy with another key, and they both have to turn the keys at the same time in order to launch the missile. Well, Gem does the exact same thing, but with money. Every transaction on our system requires at least 2 keys. But we also provide a third backup key to the customer so that the customer is always in possession of enough keys to be able to move money without us. And likewise, since Gem only has 1 key, Gem is never in possession of enough keys to be able to move the customer's money without the customer. So effectively, we're able to provide every function that a bank can provide for your money. But the difference is, the bank has to take possession, and Gem never takes possession of funds. And now I'd love to show you an example of what you can build on the Gem platform. Can we switch to the Elmo? So Gem's going to provide you with every feature that you can think of as a typical bank-level feature, like multiple accounts, spending limits, and multi-factor authentication. And like any good Bitcoin app, of course, you can request and send money using QR codes and Bitcoin addresses. But we take it one step further. What I really want to do, is send my friend Joshua here $25. So I'd love to be able to just type his name in, look up his email address in my address book, type in $25, and hit send. Now, what's happening in the background here is that this process is being sent to the Gem platform, and it's running a verification of this transaction for authenticity. But as a developer, you can also configure additional steps and other security features right into that transaction through our third-party integrations like this one with Authy. So if we hit approve, not only are we signing the transaction, but so is Authy. And we're going to wait for the network to propagate across the Bitcoin network. And I want to be really clear that this transaction just occurred without any bank. This is from one phone to another with nobody in the middle. And so I'd love to, can we switch back to the slides? So to accomplish all of this, it only took this amount of code. We make it very, very simple for developers. And today we're very excited to announce that we're launching our private beta at gem.co, and we can't wait to see what you build. Thank you.
All right. Great job. Judges?
So you should have given me the 100, but you didn't.
Bribery never gets you anywhere.
Right. On this panel, we accept bribes. So you did a great job describing the product, but since you're targeting developers, you didn't spend any time talking about the competition or your distribution strategy. So maybe if you can go into that a little bit now.
Sure. So there are a lot of wallet solutions on the market, and there are some APIs that are out there. A lot of them are more of the walled garden approach, where people are trying to encourage developers to build on top of their closed system. We're more on the side of actually building more white label solutions. So if you're a developer and you want to build a totally custom app, nobody ever has to know that you're using Gem underneath. We're just the rails on which you build, and we give you that security layer.
So since it's so noisy and crowded, how do you stand out?
So, yeah, I mean, you can take that too.
Sure. So you saw the demonstration of the multi-signature, which in itself exceeds anything that even a bank offers. In addition to that, we've built in the multi-factor authentication. We've also got sort of bank-grade level risk monitoring, authentication. So it's this whole suite of security that we've built in that we don't believe exists out there in the market.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, part of the beauty of Bitcoin is no third party needing to be involved. You are a third party.
Right, so we make a differentiation here because Gem is a participant in the transaction, but only an optional participant. So because it's based on a 3-key system, and you only need 2 keys to be able to move the money, Gem only has 1 key. So we're never in possession of enough information to be able to move money without you. And likewise, you're able to move your money without permission from us. So we never actually have a possession of the funds. The only thing we can do is say no to a transaction, but we can't initiate a transaction.
So given where I work, I have to ask, what are you doing around, are you concerned about working with the regulator or know your customer or anti-money laundering?
Sorry, I just...
Basically, just interested in your perspective about what the regulator will think of this product. And then what are you doing in terms of know your customer and anti-money laundering? Because in the end, you will probably come under the same kind of set of regulations that folks like us do. So what are you doing and thinking about in that space?
So obviously, we're very early days in the regulation, right? And there's a lot of folks who are keeping an eye on that. It's something that we are actively getting involved in because now is the time that those laws and rules can get shaped, right? Yeah. So you want to be an active participant in that. I would say in addition to that, though, we feel very comfortable with the things we just described, that those will resonate very favorably with regulators when we explain to them that all the components of the security we've built in, and that in many ways we feel it actually exceeds a bank.
So you think the security will sort of pacify what the regulator will question you about?
Yeah, sorry, it's just a little hard to hear. Feedback.
So you think that the security of the platform itself will pacify the questions that the regulators will have?
I think it's important.
Don't forget, a lot of them are not comfortable with it yet.
Right.
Particularly on a global basis.
I think it's really important to note that our platform is actually increasing consumer protection. And the real guidelines behind the goals of regulation are really to increase consumer protection. So obviously the biggest event in our space was Mt. Gox, who collapsed. A lot of people lost a lot of money. Our platform was built to prevent a solution like, or a problem like Mt. Gox, right? So we're working with exchanges to help secure their own operational accounts using multi-signature solutions.
So I like the solution. I like the simplicity of it. I have a lot of questions around how do you actually ensure the security? In other words, are you guaranteeing the loss against the lawsuit? But the big thing is, I struggle with the idea that you're not going to be commoditized. You know, in essence, you're simplifying security, but if there's 3 or 4 people who solve that same problem, what is the benefit? Or what's the differentiator?
First thing is to note is that, you know, Ken here was a former executive at PayPal handling risk management, so he was one of the very early employees building those systems out. We have a lot of deep domain experience in that space. We also recruited out of Palantir. So we have a lot of the security talent in the company. Additionally, we're doing things that I don't think the rest of the industry is doing in terms of bringing it all the way down to the hardware layer. We can't quite announce all that stuff yet. We were working on those solutions. And ultimately, you have to understand that the actual the model that we use, the way the keys are distributed, even if we were compromised, the attacker would not gain access to the other keys because the other keys are owned by the customer. So it's a very solid security model, and essentially the entire Bitcoin industry, I think, understands that this year is the year of multi-signature. And so it's a very timely product.
So are you taking on the risk then? In other words, if God forbid, something were to happen, are you saying to your customers, we'll protect you from that, insure you?
We're not saying that yet, and we're still in beta. We are talking to insurance providers, and that's about as much information as I can tell you about that. We don't have that product yet.
And then to the commoditization piece, could you just talk to that?
Yeah, so I think it's really important that the Bitcoin industry is a fraction of what it will be in the future. So our goal right now is to build out tools for the community that the community loves. And so I think it's always important to have at least a free tier for developers to be able to try out the platform. And then obviously we can monetize by scaling up with the customer. So it's really more based on a usage rather than your traditional financial model where it's based on a transaction fee. So we're more of a signature providing company than we are a financial services company.
Just one more point I might add to that is, Bitcoin transaction volume right now annualizes about $20 billion, which puts it, if you compare it to other payment systems, is about 9th, and on the heels of Western Union and Discover. And we're in the kickoff of the first quarter of this technology in this industry. So it doesn't take much of a leap of faith to sort of guess what this is going to become, and monetization will come with that.
So unfortunately, we're out of time. You guys have done a great job. That was Jem. Thank you guys very much.